analysis of Apple's peak performance announcements. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Headspace. Meditation made simple. Visit headspace.com/MacVoices for a free 1-month trial. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's Tuesday night. It is MacVoices Live. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We'd love to have you join us in the chat there. And if you forget about it tonight, or if you're listening to this after the fact, we do it every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'd love to have you then, too, even if you can't be here tonight. Guess what? We're going to talk about Apple's peak performance event. There's a big surprise. But before we do, I want to make just a couple quick announcements so folks know what's going on. Jeff and I will be here for the first hour or so of the show. Then we have a commitment to speak along with Adam Angst at the Mac and Tech Mac user group in Colorado. So we're going to do our thing here, and then we're going to drop off at about 9 p.m. Eastern to go over there. But the group will continue. Mr. David Ginsburg will act as host. So, yeah. So for all you guys,
you're going to be off the air so quick.
Yeah,
hey, Chuck, does he have your credit card? Does he have your credit card and other things?
So you
I'm sure it will go very, very well.
Oh, yes. So you can start to ingratiate yourself to Mr.
Most
Ginsburg.
of you have been on my show. You know how it goes.
Yeah. So
I'm so glad I've been nice to David.
Yeah. So this we set up this user group appearance, before Apple's event was announced. We couldn't let them down. We also didn't want to let you all down because so many of the folks showing up in the chat room are here every Tuesday. We really appreciate it. And we also felt we wanted to dig into Apple's peak performance event as well. And so this way we don't have to cut it down to an hour, and you all still get your say. So after all that, let's go around the room, find out who's here, and then we'll get into it. First time back in a long time, Mr. Mike T. Rose has joined us. Mike, it's great to have you.
It's wonderful to be here with such a distinguished crew of commentators, pundits, and fonts of wisdom. Great to be back, Chuck.
Where, Mike?
Are you looking at your monitor?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks for leaving me out, Mike.
I was glancing at a Hamilton poster I had over here. I'm sorry, I got confused. So
okay, yeah, because we all look so much like that crew. The soon-to-be host of MacVoices Live at 9:00 tonight, Mr. David Ginsburg. David, welcome, and thank you for taking over the hosting duties a little bit later.
Thanks for having me, Chuck. Oh, happy to step in. I have some big shoes to fill, but I think we'll manage.
So gonna regret it.
You are going to regret it. I'm so sorry, David, but thank you anyway. Jeff Gamet is here, and he will be leaving along with me at 9:00, so he won't get to see the carnage that occurs afterwards. Jeff, great to have you.
It's always awesome to hang out with you and everyone else. I look forward to Tuesday every week because of this. Also, I've been on In Touch with iOS. I know what kind of ship Dave runs. And while everyone's thinking, it's going to be carnage and chaos. Oh, people, this man is going to keep you so under control. You have no idea.
He does have the mute button and the eject button. So,
Oh, he has the power.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, also joining us after quite some time, Mr. Frank Petrie is back. Frank, it's great to have you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Everything under control?
Apple, my health, and just about everything, I think.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. Andrew Orr is here with no drink in hand so far, anyway. Andrew, it's
so far. Give it time.
Back there.
Early.
We're betting on his beard.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chuck. I'm glad to be here tonight. Exciting day today.
Very exciting day. We will definitely get to that because that's all we're going to talk about. Sporting a very unusual background this time, Mr. Mark Fuccio. Mark, is that Carl Sagan? I said Andrew Orr is here with no. Oops.
So yes, that is Carl Sagan, and people who have seen some of his shows people, I guess the age of most people who are on the panel probably remember him talking about billions
and billions of cosmic car stuff.
But I think the news as we dig into it is, all of Apple's goodness today was made by all of the billions and billions of transistors, they're able to design and manufacture on their processor chips. So we'll have interesting stuff to talk about.
Terrific. Guy Serle is here as well. He hasn't changed mics in 3 weeks now, Guy?
This is the third week with the same mic.
Oh, God.
Wow. My hands are starting to shake.
Who are you and what have you done with the real guy?
Where's the guy?
I'll never tell.
It's on a dare.
It's just a nice mic.
Yeah. Jim Ray is adjusting his cap. I think it still needs more adjustment, Jim.
Yeah, but I could tell you were going to talk to me, so.
Okay. All right. Still sporting the Ukrainian flag. Good for you. Our thoughts, as we said last time around, our thoughts go out to all of our friends and all the Mac in the Mac and Apple community in the Ukraine. It's difficult times there, no question.
They're still hanging in.
Yep. But it's just like a gut punch when you think about what they're going through.
Yep.
It really is. Sporting a completely new locale, Ms. Brittany Smith is here. Brittany, welcome. Your fuzzy mic has been relocated.
I know. I had to move it, but everything else is all different and weird.
Okay, well, that's all right. You're here. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Hi.
So, thanks for being
Isn't this like the Different and Weird show?
It's a something show.
Every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Yes. So Apple had their peak performance event today, and there were a fair number of announcements. There were a few of the predictions that came out right. There were a few that came out wrong. There were a few surprises, I think. And we're not going to necessarily belabor every single thing, but the one thing I did want to ask, and I wanted to direct it to Brittany, what was your thinking on the SE? On the iPhone
that's
SE.
fine for the SE. I have a mini.
Okay. Didn't tempt you at all?
Oh no. I'm all about the flat sides, and also unless they've changed it from its previous form factor, the mini's still smaller.
Okay.
And the screen ratio is better. Yeah.
Okay.
But I was tempted by the green mini a little bit.
Oh, Buffet green was pretty nice.
Yeah.
What
Alpine green?
The Alpine green.
Alpine was Pro.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. There's a different green.
I don't remember what they called it for the mini, but
It's green.
What did you call it, Jeff?
Boba Fett green.
Boba Fett green. I don't.
I remember when I idolized that guy.
Mandalorian green.
Yeah.
What's the name of the little Yoda guy? Gargu or
Grogu.
Grogu green. Grogu green would.
Yeah, there you go.
That is a good one.
Disney Plus would be down their throats in a heartbeat if they tried to pull that off. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think.
But there will be people out there putting little ears on their new iPhones.
I didn't think I needed a new phone. Thanks, Chuck.
Now you want it, don't you, Brittany? Again, that to me seemed to be probably the least of the announcements, taking nothing away from it. Was anybody super excited over the revisions to the SE or to the green colorations of things?
I know. I just got a new SE for my wife about 2 weeks ago. I tried. I was like, "There's probably one coming at the next event," but of course, it hadn't been announced at that point. And her first gen SE was quickly dying, so it was like, okay. So went ahead and bit the bullet and got it for her. So no SE3 for Tracy.
So, Guy, what did you pay for that? $399?
Yeah, it was $399.
So the price did go up.
The entry level today is up about
$429.
$429.
Yeah. But honestly, if you were going to choose between an SE2 for $399 and an SE3 for $429, there's no.
Oh yeah.
You're going to go
No-brainer.
with the SE3 right there. I mean, it's faster processor. All the check marks are checked. So I would have gotten that if I'd known for sure it was coming.
Has it been 14 days yet?
Yeah, it has. It has, as a matter of fact.
Did anyone check to see if they discontinued the prior SE phone model?
Yes, they did.
They did.
Okay, yeah. So, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think really the big thing that's going to stand out definitely is the A15 processor is going to need some mass improvements for performance. I think those folks alone are going to see an improvement. Battery life is going to be huge too, because I have a family member who has the previous generation, and I'm always seeing her plugging in an external battery, and just the battery is always dying on her. The deep fusion, so you're going to have some better graphics, and the camera's a little more improved on it too. So I mean, overall, I think Apple did a really good thing, and I know they're going to sell them like crazy. And
It's
really
solid.
getting into it's going to be a solid phone. It's hitting the low end of the market, and 429 is that low end? Yeah, I mean, but not comparing to some of the really low end Androids. But I think it's going to entice more people who are thinking about switching. They might consider this phone now, and 5G, of course, is another thing too. That's proven.
A15.
One thing it's not going to have is going to have the ultra wide band, the top end band of the 5G. So it doesn't have all the bands on 5G. It has most of them, but not all of them.
Do you think? Oh, good, Jeff. Sorry.
Okay. So, when you look at this phone, a lot of people look at it and think, okay, well, I guess that's an okay update for the SE. And when I looked at it, I thought, holy crap, this is an amazing update for the SE, because when I look at that phone, I look at it as a phone that is very popular outside the United States. So now people in countries where this is the phone that they've been able to get, it's not a second-class citizen. It is a full-on modern iPhone at a lower price point, and I think this is going to be big for a lot of markets outside the U.S.
Yep. Oh, just to make sure, correct myself, Wave is the band that will not be included in the iPhone SE.
Did anybody feel like the camera might be the best thing they did to this, to keep it relevant and to keep it, a phone that somebody at the higher end of the low end market, whatever that means.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I think the fact that it has the processor that it does, the A15.
A15.
I don't think that means a lot to most people, but the fact that you have a better camera and all the stuff you can do in terms of taking photos and manipulating photos, I think that's a really exciting capability.
Yeah, agreed.
That just seemed to be the thing that because I think you're right, Mark. I'm not sure that the folks who are buying that particular phone are all that excited about the chip, but the new camera, yeah.
They're probably not excited about the chip, but Apple is giving them like a sleeper excitement feature. Wow, that sounds really weird. Anyhow, by putting the A15 in there, they address something that they know about their customers that are buying this phone, which is that these are customers just overall, like around the world, that are more likely to hold on to the phone longer. So what they did was gave them a nice little present by putting an A15 in there, which means that their phone stays usable and relevant much longer.
Probably 3 to 4 years, easy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And right now they're excited for the camera, but down the road they'll be really happy that as new features are available in the operating system, their phones aren't left behind.
Right. That and from a supply chain perspective, if capacity is limited at TSMC, it makes sense for Apple to try to focus as many as their devices on one or two processor variants instead of having a wide range of things of different ages of different process technology. So I think that's also an input into this decision.
I think that this was way a bigger upgrade, both the camera and the processor is usually whatever one they just had, but also sooner than I would have guessed a year ago. I would have guessed they'd go 3 years between SE upgrades, and they sort of surprised me and gave more than I would have expected.
This edition of MacVoices is supported by Headspace. Headspace is meditation made simple. How are you today? Really, how are you today? We all say fine when we don't really mean it. Fine isn't really an emotion, is it? How many times have you told yourself you're fine when all you've really felt is anger or sadness or nerves? If you are saying that you're fine, but you're really not, then you need to try Headspace. I found Headspace easy to get into, and it really does make a difference. In the middle of an insane day, which seems to be most days right now, that little break that Headspace's mini meditations provides helps me refocus on what's important. And those mini meditations are just where it starts. Struggling with bedtime anxiety? Try their sleepcasts, immersive bedtime journeys that change every night. And for parents, Headspace even has morning mindfulness routines that you can do with your kids. However you are feeling, try Headspace at headspace.com/MacVoices and get 1 month free of their entire mindfulness library. This is the best Headspace offer available, so go to headspace.com/MacVoices today. Headspace.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Headspace for their support of MacVoices. How about the iPad? Anybody really excited over this? Because I know I saw a number of comments on Twitter that
I am. I mean,
yeah, okay.
So it just so happened that somebody on my team at work had just requested an iPad, and I said, "Well, give it a day, give it a few days so we can find out what's coming." And when I saw the announcement today, I really had to sort of scratch my head and say, "Well, why? What exactly would make sense about getting a Pro at this point,
right,
versus the Air?" And it's the rear-facing camera assembly is the dual camera, ProMotion screen, Thunderbolt 4 on the USB port, and
Face ID.
Face ID, and there's one other. You
can use the smart keyboard. You can use the Folio, which you couldn't with the previous model.
But I'm talking about what differentiates the Pro from the Air still. And there's not very much.
The Pro has the M1 and the Air has the A15, but honestly,
it has an M1.
The new Air has
You're
the M1.
You're right. They did put the M1 in there. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's okay because it's confusing and legitimately, if you look at Apple's iPad comparison chart, there are very few features that are, that are gotcha features that you would say, well, I mean, the screen size, larger screen size is an option. Obviously, you can go to 12 inches. Storage is higher. You can go up to 2 terabytes. But if I'm trying to position this as a work device for my colleague, he doesn't need the rear camera, the ultra wide camera. He doesn't need the extra capacity. What he needs is an inexpensive tablet that he can use for whiteboarding, for quick collaboration, for Zoom, for Google Meet, for document creation. This is the sweet spot. I mean, seriously, $599 for the 64 gig is great. And the least expensive 11-inch iPad Pro is $200 more. You get more storage, but none of those features to me for a work device add up to $200 worth of value. So he's getting an Air. And I think the Air is that is an incredibly compelling package. Those high-end features are delightful. They're lovely. But honestly, the rear-facing camera on the iPad, who among us is able to use that without looking like a total dweeb?
I say that all the time.
Or your aunt at a wedding, holding up to capture the tarantella. Like nobody can do that. So I think I'm super psyched for the Air. I think it gives a really nice.
Like a dork.
It's okay. I'm not talking about you, Dave. I'm talking about your aunt.
I know. I'm just showing.
I think it gives a great option.
Talking about you
for the mid-range and for people who don't want the mini.
So. I never take pictures of my iPad.
Okay, so did anyone notice during the quick guide of the new Air, they mention just very quickly, one sentence in passing, that you can use it to develop and submit apps to the App Store.
Yeah, the Swift Playgrounds. They updated, and it actually can be submitted right directly from the iPad. Right? Yes,
that's not new today.
Is that new to the Air?
No,
I think it's new to the. I thought it was new to the Air. Well, they made it sound that way when they announced it.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay. So it's been there
since Swift Playgrounds. The new version came out a few months ago.
Well, maybe they're just highlighting it then.
Yeah.
Frank, I know that you've been kind of bouncing around about what new devices you might get or not get. Did the new Air tempt you at all? Don't think we have your audio, Frank.
He's just doing the interpretive dance.
I think he can hear us.
I love my Mac Mini.
Oh,
I traded in my AirPad 4 for a Mac Mini.
You mean?
And I couldn't be happier.
For an iPad Mini.
I'm sorry. What did I say? AirPad Mini.
You said Air. Yeah, you said Mac Mini. So you went with the iPad Mini.
Yeah, I've been minimalizing everything. I've gone down to iPhone 13 Mini, went down to the iPad Mini. And I think the only thing I'm going to stay it's the small end, is the 24-inch iMac if I buy it.
Okay. Brian F. in the chat room says, I have a 2018 iPad. I've been thinking of changing out for a new iPad. The iPad Air looks enticing. Kind of wish it had Face ID. Yeah, well, that's always the thing. They're, as Mike Rose was saying, they have to leave some of the features to push you to the Pro. And I'm not sure. I mean, I love my Face ID, but I'm not sure that if I didn't need or want everything else that the Pro offers, that would be that compelling a thing to have.
I think
I'm sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
I think that's fair. It can be fairly compelling. My wife has the Air with the Touch ID, and especially now that they're supporting the Magic Keyboard, the Touch ID is in a really awkward spot for unlocking the device when it's on the keyboard.
See, I mean, I'm still thinking about the last 2 years where everyone with a Face ID device found their authentication technology effectively disabled, 60 to 70% of the time. And I still use an iPad in situations, particularly when I'm commuting or on a plane, where I'm wearing a mask. And I probably will be wearing a face covering for the foreseeable future. New York subway commuters, shout out. A Face ID is a non-value on those devices when you can't use your face. So why shouldn't I save the $200 and get the iPad Air and do Touch ID when I know that the working environments I'm going to be in, Face ID isn't going to be dependably a thing I can use?
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing. Like, it's funny because I have a Touch ID phone and a Face ID iPad, but I don't take the Face ID. I don't take the iPad out very much because I'm not out a lot. But when I do, I definitely it doesn't, it's inconvenient. And weird thing is they don't support the watch unlock with the iPad for some strange reason.
The watch isn't paired to the iPad; it's paired to the phone.
That's why.
I guess I don't care. Make it so.
Make it work.
The watch unlock works on a watch unlock works with a Mac. So
it works with a Mac.
True.
So why not with a?
Yeah,
that's fair. It's a fair point. Touche.
The other thing too, with the iPad Air, they introduced in the last model was the Touch ID on top of the power button, so it's not on this like the SE. So it's a new technology. I think people thought that was pretty nifty the way they did that. And I think Apple wanted to bring that over and probably distinguish it a little bit from the Pro, because the Pro has Face ID and kind of look what they're doing with the SE. It still has a home button and it still has Touch ID. So.
I'm going to leave the iPad for a second, and just because the event started out, talking about Apple TV Plus. And what struck me about that, not as much the shows, but just the pace. The pace that right out of the gate. I mean, Tim hit the ground running, and they really rolled through this. And we haven't even gotten to some of the bigger announcements. But I thought it was interesting that they even given how much they had to say, I thought it was interesting that they gave Apple TV Plus and some of those things as much time as they did, and it was not much.
Yeah, it was quick.
I think the Apple TV Plus bit at the beginning was necessary, even though it wasn't the big flashy part of the event. And that's because Apple still needs to remind people about Apple TV Plus's relevance, and showing off these movies with big name actors in them, and then showing off the whole baseball thing. And while I'm not into spectator sports, I totally appreciate the importance of being able to live stream spectator sports for a huge number of people. Mm-hmm. So those were really important announcements, and they needed to be there somewhere. So they put them at the right place. Show them right at the beginning, get that bit out of the way. Now let's move on to the sexy toys.
Well, it's honestly, it's not that surprising because, I mean, one of Apple's fastest growing bits is services.
Sure.
So, and this was basically almost entirely a hardware kind of event. And honestly, anything that will let me see my Brooklyn Dodgers, I'm okay with it.
See, there you go.
Well, ironically, they're having the baseball is striking right now. So good timing on their part.
Well, that actually it's a lockout, but
it's a lockout. That's what I meant. It's like lockout.
Well, the end result is no one's playing baseball,
right?
Yeah, and Guy, with all respect to you and your Brooklyn Dodgers, I mean, this was probably the least interesting thing for me, but
it was.
I know it's a big deal. And it felt like, okay, is this Apple's first foray into streaming sports, to have people start to think about it a little bit, that, they're not just an original content channel. They're not just a movie channel or an original series channel, that they will be a much more of a full service channel.
Lock in.
I'm sorry.
No, I was to say lock in the USFL while you still can.
Well, they're supposedly going to be picking up the Sunday football ticket,
right,
when it leaves Dish.
Brian in the chat room says, is this the first time live video will be on Apple TV Plus? I would imagine they would start to live stream their presentations there too, in addition to YouTube, etc. I think they already do, don't they?
They're not going to. I don't think Apple's going to go back. I don't think Apple's going to go back to doing live events.
Well,
I don't see the point of it for them.
For live streaming, though, yes, they've been live streaming their media events through Apple TV Plus for a while now.
Well,
that's how I've been watching
them. Has it been through Plus? Speaking of streaming, did anybody else
shows
have
up as
trouble
as
with
an
the
event
streaming
in Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry, Jim.
I think the last time they had a live event, there was no such thing as Apple TV Plus.
No, there wasn't. It was it was before the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic is what kind of pushed them to do it in the first place. And I think that the chatter of it and the how well it's been received, and let's face it, the live events took anywhere from half to twice as long as the events they're doing now, and they're still getting out the same amount of information. It's snappy. It just keeps rolling, and everybody seems to enjoy it more.
Well,
but I agree with Jeff that I think this is necessary just to remind people. I know that I've let my Apple TV subscription lapse, and there's a lot of new, in part because I saturated the content I was consuming, but there's now a lot of new stuff out there, and this is a reminder. And to the extent people like baseball, and I'm not a particular baseball fan, but this is a great way to remind people, hey, we have all these great award-winning shows and all this great stuff, and you take another look and re-up and resubscribe, or subscribe the first time if you haven't. So I think it had just the right amount of time, and I agree with Jeff that starting at the beginning is quick and easy, because at the end everybody will be so excited by all the hardware announcements that they probably wouldn't be paying attention or in a mental frame to absorb the information. But at the start, my notes were, okay, they had a review of all the great stuff, and then they had, Friday night baseball. So I can compress it even more than Mr. Tim Cook can.
Yeah. Okay, one quick thing to add to that. It was also important that Apple talk about Apple TV Plus today, because we are a day after when Apple TV Plus started rolling out on more devices than it's been available on before. For example, Comcast Flex got Apple TV Plus as a pushed software update yesterday, and I believe a few other streaming devices got it as well. So it was timely to remind people about what Apple TV Plus offers.
Okay, so I guess then we go to what seemed to be the big news of the event, and start with the M1 Ultra, which, if I understood it, and I think the concept is pretty simple, is that it's basically two M1 chips fused together.
Yes, and Twitter was full of jokes about both Human Centipede and also MK Ultra, which was fantastic, and props to Rich Siegel for being the first person I saw make that joke. But of course, MK Ultra was truly a U.S. government project, which was involved in mind control experiments using
Apple.
Using Apple, using
LSD.
Psychoactive
LSD,
drugs,
right?
Yeah. Yes, but M1 Ultra may give you weird visions and make you think you're seeing things, but no, it isn't. Yes, it is two M1 Max chips stapled to each other, like you staple a monkey to a hyena, and therefore getting all the performance.
Refrigerator and a toaster.
I'm sorry, I've got that mental picture in my mind now.
Sweet dreams.
Using an interconnect. In fact, Johnny Cerrugi referred to it as a secret feature, a secret capability of the M1 Max, which is that Ultra Fusion silicon interface, 10,000 connections, 2.5 terabits or terabytes of bandwidth between the two chips. And most importantly, he didn't really hammer this home, but it is super important knowing all the work Apple's done historically to enable multiprocessing and GPU processing as a system level API and a system level library for applications historically. These two chips, still two chips, two CPUs, two SoCs, appear to the OS, to the applications, to anything that is running on that system as a single chip. No engineering work. Right, it's the only way it would work. So there's no recompiling, there's no universal squared binaries that have to be generated. An Apple Silicon or universal binary will run unmodified, presumably unmodified, on the M1 Ultras. From everything we saw in the keynote, these chips are going to scream. And of course, you can only get them in a $4,000 computer, which we'll be talking about, I'm sure, very shortly.
There was a lot to unpack and discuss from Apple's peak performance announcements. And so the MacVoices Live panel is back in the next edition of MacVoices, the second part of 3 parts, to pick up the conversation about the M1 Ultra and what it means for the future of desktop Mac computing. That's next time on MacVoices, and I hope you'll join us. Until then, and as always, I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. you will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.